All right, good evening, good evening. I'm here this evening with Professor Jeff Willie. Jeff served in the United States Air Force from April 1977 until October 2002 in key leadership roles like combat police instructor, human resources director, and superintendent of the Defense Joint Service Honor Guard outside of the Washington, D.C. area. Well, the list just goes on and on when talking about Professor Jeff Willie. Jeff is an expert in executive leadership, training, and conflict resolution. He is married to his lovely high school sweetheart, Pat. I'm so elated to have with me tonight Professor Jeff Willie. Professor, please say hello to the people, sir.
Good evening, folks. How's everyone doing? It's such an honor to be part of this call tonight with great leader, Isaiah Drone, a great man of God, and a great visionary. So it's certainly an honor to be here tonight, and I'm looking forward to just serving and adding value to others, and hopefully that I can gain something as well to be able to increase my impact in the world. I hope this call will be beneficial to everyone that's listening in, and then for those that will hit a recording at a later date. My focus is to add value and serve people, that my words do not return void, and that my words is edifying and glorifying to God, and also to be able to lift you up and whatever your challenges are, your endeavors are, and whatever you inspire to do and inspire to be. So thank you, Brother Drone, for allowing me to be on this call tonight, asking me to participate in what God has endeavored you to do. And I just appreciate and give glory to God.
All right, sir. All right. We're so glad to have you. You know, tonight we're going to be talking about leadership. We're going to be talking about educational leadership, and we hope that this will be a continuum or a series. But just to kind of give a starter here, leadership, when it comes to leadership, our race of hominids or humans was born under conditions of extreme adversity. Like many other species, it started when a subgroup or a demi in some languages of paleontology got cut off from the parent population. Now, this is, the scientific thought, right? But in this scientific expression, some random mutations appeared in this demi or this cultural that proved to have distinct adaptive value under the persistence of local conditions facing the group. I know there's a lot of jargon there, but to kind of break that down over several generations, in other words, introduced new features of adapting, and this adaptability spread it through different variations. And from these variations erected a model called leadership. Leadership has special significance for humans, and it takes many forms, though with two underlining motifs or themes or repetitions. One is pure dominance, meaning that I'm commanding you to do this or obey me with power. And this comes from those who demonstrate power by force or will, their ability to make things happen. But power alone is not enough. It's not enough because it's unstable. This is how dictators start, because they can't sustain it. Well, tonight we want to go into, and this is why we invited Professor Jeff Willie, because he is a mastermind in leadership roles and servant leadership and how to serve. And he is a keynote speaker in many facets. He's been working with John Maxwell, and now he is dubbed into more of the public school sector and in the educational institutions with theories and models like positive thinking theory. And this man is such a servant leader that he has done, he started off, now this is not now, I don't want to get in trouble, but he was so animated, he was so not even driven but passionate about serving his community that he has done a lot of his work starting out. When we talking about years ago, this guy has been in the leadership game down through the years, but he started a lot of his work pro bono, and he just worked his way up. You know, he did what he had to do for literacy. And so with that, I want to ask you a question, Professor Jeff, and I'm going to shut up. And that question is, sir, why is educational leadership so important to you?
That is a phenomenal question. And one thing about human being, we must have a purpose, we must have a why, and we have to keep that why high to be able to drive us towards our purpose and what our focus is. And educational literacy and education leadership became extremely important to me. And let me give you a little background story, try to keep a long story short as best as I possibly can, is why education leadership is so important to me. And it goes back to my childhood. Yes, growing up in rural East Texas, with a father that couldn't read and write. My father was born in 1910, fought in World War II as an illiterate person, could not read and write. And I was born in 1957, and my mother and father had my birth certificate issued to me in 1962 because we was born with 6 boys and 6 girls in the woods in East Texas. And so eventually my parents got a ride to town, Panola County, Carthage, Texas, the county seat, and the county clerk issued my mother and my father the necessary birth certificates of the birth that was recorded in the Bible. Let me put it this way. When my father could not sign my birth certificate because he couldn't write, and so he was able to make an X. And under that X, it said, Hobie Willie's Mark. Now, I did not know, growing up as a teenager, that my father could not read and write, that he was not able to read his own name. He was illiterate. But when I got ready to enlist in the military, a year after high school in 1977, my mother gave me my birth certificate to give to the Air Force recruiter. When I opened up my birth certificate, that's when I noticed the letter X and my father's signature block. That was a paradigm shift for me. That took the selfishness out of me. Understand the importance of raising children in an environment for literacy, and that the education environment must be an environment to foster a relationship with students, a relationship with parents, and educator leaders. It's got to be the catalyst for a situation like me, for someone coming out of a illiterate environment, not knowing that my father couldn't read and write, but that X became my X factor. As we say, the value of X. X is a mathematical, it's also, when you say the value of X, you're looking at a mathematical equation. But for me, it was an X factor that shifted my paradigm, that literacy became a major platform for me. That I'm the youngest son of 6 boys and 6 girls, and I'm number 10 out of 12 kids. But that educational platform, or that literacy platform, and that value of X, that X factor, so I shifted my thinking. And at that moment, I said no more. Because if I'd have known my father could not read and write as a teenager, I think I would have done something. But my father was able to mask his illiteracy. I would bring work home, and Father asked me about it, and he said, what does it say? And obviously he expected me to read that to him. The books in the house was the Bible, where my mother recorded the verse, and the other book in the house was the Farmer's Almanac, where my mother read that book to my father to be plant crops, because we were sharecroppers, and he would plant crops based on the season, based on the advice that my mother gave him out of the Farmer's Almanac. But that became very significant to me. And so throughout my time in the military, learning to read effectively, and also learning to study and get around people that was growth-minded, that was pursuing education, and asking myself, could I ever go to college? And the answer was yes, but I wasn't sure. Well, let me give you the aspect of the educational leadership part that came even before I discovered my father could not read and write, and even before that X became part of my X factor in a paradigm shift. But it goes back to the point where I'm in segregated schools in the early 60s and to the first part of the decade of the 70s. And once we integrated in Pinellas County, my first year of going to school with Caucasian students, mixed students, was in the 7th grade. My 8th grade year, I had an African-American math teacher. An African-American math teacher with the other 5 of the boys in the class, African-American males in the class, and there was a mixture of everyone in the class, but there was 4 of us, and 5 of us acted up, 13-year-old, 14-year-old boys doing our teenage thing. But I never forget the words he spoke to us that day, because he wanted to get our attention. And his words were, "You boys are stupid, you're never going to amount to anything, and don't take algebra in the 9th grade." Now here I am, being raised with a mother with a 3rd grade education. She could read. A father that could not read, living in the woods in East Texas. And what do? I don't go home and tell my father. I don't go home and tell my mother, because their response would be, especially being illiterate, what did the teacher say? That teacher had that level of credibility. Those educators had that level of credibility. And whatever the teacher said, that's what most parents would abide by when it comes to education of the children during that time in my life. And so I did not take math in the 9th grade, algebra in the 9th grade. I skipped that year because I was taking advice of my 8th grade math teacher, who called me the S word, stupid, the power of words. And that's why part of my education philosophy talks about the spoken word. And so in the 10th grade, I did take algebra, and I did well. One reason I did well, because I wasn't around my friends, I wasn't around my peers, and I was able to concentrate, and I did quite well. We only need 2 tracks of math in my time, so the 10th grade, 11th grade, I didn't take geometry because I got a part-time job and went to work to help the family out. In 12th grade, I took geometry. I did okay, but I skipped a year, and those foundational principles in math certainly was disconnected, and I lost those foundational principles. But I took geometry, and I was able to get out of high school. But in 1987, when I got stationed at Dodge Air Force Base in Abilene, Texas, my wife and I had an agreement that she was going to go back to school and get her bachelor's in nursing and get her master's in nursing. And we did so, made that agreement, raising 2 daughters. And so I decided, after she finished her master's degree, to enroll in my associate's degree at the Community College of the Air Force. The Air Force has its own community college. And I went through all my basic requirements to get my associate's degrees, and accumulated enough hours to get 3 associate's degrees. And I decided I needed 1 class, and that 1 class to finish those 3 associate's degrees was college algebra. The power of the spoken word. You are stupid. You're never going to amount to nothing. You can't do math. And so I enrolled in college algebra because I need to be role models for my children, and I needed to get my college degree, my associate's degree, because I wanted to make a difference. And no more literacy. We're going to stop. The buck stops here. I dropped out because it was very challenging. That proverbial thought was still in my head. You are stupid. So I dropped. I enrolled again, and I dropped out again. Of course, I enrolled again because I needed to finish this, and you would think that 3rd time would be the charm, but 3rd time wasn't the charm. I dropped out again. And I remember coming home the third time and going to my backyard in Abilene, Texas, and laying out on my driveway in the back and just became an angel, a snow angel, a picture of a snow angel in the middle of the summertime, and said, Lord, I need help. I can't do this. And that's when the Lord shared with me to humble myself and go and ask my daughter, who was very gifted in math in high school, to help me with algebra. And she helped me. So it was not about that I couldn't do it. I needed to humble my spirit, and I needed to be around people that was going to help me. And once I finished that algebra class, then my bachelor's and my master's and my graduate certificate and my doctoral work became extremely easy because I took the monkey off my back. When I got that proverbial, as we say, curse, or that power word that was holding me back, and I was allowing it to hold me back, to hinder me from furthering my education, to being a role model for my children. And once I removed that barrier, as we say, doors started to open. And because of that barrier, because of that history, education leadership and education literacy became significantly important to me. The power of leaders, educational leaders, being extremely positive and optimistic and speaking life into the men and women of the children that they're empowered to educate on their campuses. The power of that spoken word, being optimistic, being that bright light, being that hope, being that sense of encouragement, and not being negative but being positive. That's the focus of that. That became very passionate for me. It's taking those negative situations that impacted me, and now I turn that negative into positive to be able to change other people's lives, to let them know that you can, I can. If I think I can, I'm going to speak positive into you in spite of your current situation. I see the greatness in you, and we're going to work on fulfilling that greatness out of you. That's been the focus of my educational platform. And when I received and retired and transitioned from the military, I never thought that I would become a college professor, and using what God took me through, brought me through, to be able to go back and to be able to share those stories and share those situations to help other young men and women grow. Not only young men, teenagers, boys and girls, but also the adult learner that's seeking higher education and been hindered by those words, the same type of language that I was hindered to, the environment that hindered you, the environment that spoke negative, all the actions out of that environment spoke to you that you couldn't. But I stopped by to tell you that you can, and you will. And I will be a voice for you, and I will be an advocate for you to lift you up and push you forward. You can do anything that you set your mind to it. I can if I think I can.
Wow. Professor, excuse me, I had to take a breath. That was, to me, the first thing I can think of was what I just heard. My goodness, was transparency. You talked about your life through childhood, how you were, there were 6 boys, you were the 10th, there were 6 girls, and graduated in 1977, and you already had this struggle, but yet you humbled yourself, and you allowed God to make you. And because you did this, it changed your whole culture. This was, this is like a cultural evolution, if I can say that, because what is cultural evolution? It's like when your culture evolves. And then through all of this, you are encouraging people. You're encouraging people to have the appropriate experiences and expectations. And this helps to motivate people to cooperate in the work that has to be done and to be able to deal with the unexpected difficulties that may occur when working with people. This is what servant leadership, I think these are some of the key attributes that define or identify servant leadership. And so let me ask you another question, because as the listeners are listening in to Professor Jeff Willie, by the way, you hear how positive he is. And the only way to be this passionate is I think you told me this. I think we had lunch one day, or we were at a meeting at one of the offices at one of the headquarters downtown, and you told me, sir, that you listen with your heart. And that's one of the things that I have kept with me, to start listening with my heart. And so let me ask you a question. I want you to listen with your heart, this question. And it's about integrity and how integrity is tied to the educational platform. Let me give you an example, like a school administrator, right? In an educational leadership position, right? And this person promotes the success of all students by acting with integrity, or should be acting with integrity, acting with fairness, and in an ethical manner. How do you tie integrity to educational leadership?
Integrity and trust, that is the foundation for everything. You cannot operate in an environment without a level of transparency, openness, servant mindset, that you are there to serve the people as an administrator, as an educator, as an educational leader. You are not there to be served. And as a servant leader, you operate as a foundation. I am here. I'm going to model integrity. Whatever my expectations are, or whatever I expect of the people that I am here to serve, I must model that. I must be the true model on a daily basis. My walk must be my talk. Everything I touch has a level of foundation of integrity and trust and servant leadership and empowerment. It's got to be that focus. Let me kind of read this. I want to share this with you so you get a good understanding of what drives my education philosophy that deals with my leadership philosophy. Well, let's do this first. I want to be able to share this with you as an aspect of what is that drives my leadership philosophy, so you understand that leadership is leadership, and leadership is about influence. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And that is a statement that come out of the John Maxwell literature, but you look at that, everything rises and falls on leadership. But leadership is influence and nothing more. It's influence. Well, let me share what my leadership philosophy is, and then I'll share parts of what my educational philosophy that's connected with that, and how you are a leader, no matter what you are a role model, no matter who you are. Your walk must be your talk, not your talk, because your talk could be hypocritical. Your walk is not hypocritical. Whether you are a leader in the home, your school, or your church, or your place of business, leadership is a service to mankind, a service to a calling larger than me, the person, a service willing to sacrifice my needs or your needs for the needs of others. Servant leadership. Leaders accept responsibility for their actions and make no excuses for irresponsibility, transparency, integrity. They don't make excuses. Leaders don't make excuses. They accept it as part of walking out that integrity. Leaders seek to obtain their personal and professional knowledge and skills. Leaders are readers to continue to enhance their skills in their particular field of studies. Leaders are readers. Leaders cannot add value to others. That's what you got to get it, folks. Leaders cannot add value to others unless you're willing to add value to yourself and to myself. I can't give what I don't have. I must grow me. Leaders are people-focused. That's your purpose. Serving and adding value to people. People are my business. That is my motto. That is my tagline. So leaders are people-focused. People take care of the mission. People take care of the school. People take care of the pupils. Teachers take care of that. And I say this to leaders. This is if you don't Feed the teachers, they will eat the kids. What does that mean? Take care of those teachers, serve those teachers, empower them, help them be risk takers, help them be focused, be a visionary, care for them, and they will take care of those students. So leaders are people focused. They are visionaries. They foster a growth mindset environment. Growth mindset means taking risks, willing to take risks, and encourage risk taking, and respect and develop a productive relationship with every member on their team. Get to know them, because everything rises and falls on leadership. Everything, no matter what it is, everything rises and falls on leadership. So leaders have to be people-focused. That pyramid where you see the traditional pyramid hierarchy, you got the leader at the top, and then you got all the subordinates at the bottom. But if you reverse that and go into a servant leadership role, the people are at the top, and you're at the bottom, and you serve up. You serve those men and women, and you take care of them. It's got to be a servant mindset. That has to be your focus. Because why? This is why. These are my thoughts. And then, of course, Brother Drone, you can chime in, interrupt me if I get a little long-winded, but I get very passionate about this. But that school, because of education leadership, that school is a place of growth and development. That's an extension of the home. That's an extension of the community. And sometimes that is the only safe place in that community. School is a place where we discover who we are in a larger society as you've grown up. Schools sometimes become a safe haven from a chaotic world at home. And my world was not chaotic, but I did not have electricity, and my school did have electricity. Schools open those doors for those job opportunities. It gives those young men and women hope. It helps me become responsible, a better citizen. It gives me character-based education, but it has to be modeled. It contributes to the larger society. The school and the community determines what's essential and vital for children to succeed in the larger society. Yes, the family is a key component to that, but that school and the community is an extension of that. And under certain circumstances, we know schools become the gateway in which especially socially economic challenged children see the world. They see the world through books. They see the world by going into the library. Sometimes that's the only place they can see the world. And right now, of course, we have the internet and all those things available so they can see the world through the social media platform and internet platform. So teachers and those education leaders' behavior must be above reproach, must be professional, that embody the core values of the foundations of professional behavior. Leaders have to do that. Leaders focus on that, being professional at all times. See, one thing about being a professional, integrity, doing the right thing when no one is looking. That's what professionalism is, and that's what integrity is. That we know that professionalism is a service to the mankind. It's a service to a calling larger than me. A service willing to sacrifice my needs for the needs of others. Professionalism and professionals, as I stated earlier, make no excuses for irresponsibilities. And this is a key component. With a growth mindset, an environment of empowerment, professionalism strives for excellence in all endeavors. While you
that is so
no reward. Go ahead.
That is so important. That is so important. Behavior must be professional. Mm-hmm. And that's something that in education, especially in the inner city areas, that's something that we need to take care of. And it's linked to taking care of teachers. It's linked to leadership philosophy. It's linked to influence. It's linked to growth mindsets. It's linked to the economical, the SES, the socioeconomic status. It's linked to ecological. It's linked to value. It's because leaders, they must add value to themselves, like you said. And the school should be a safe haven, a safe place. outside of the family. School should be your extended family, as a matter of fact, and your teachers should be your extended parents, meaning that, they haven't violated your trust to the point where you can still trust them enough to do or fill in those gaps that, someone that's really, really close to you, like, mom or dad, you can't really express those feelings to them because you're there, you're living with them, and you're going to be with them the rest of their lives or the rest of your life. And so this kind of ties me into my next question about vision. However, Professor Jeff Willie, now I want to keep in mind here that there is no one style for all seasons. There's not a one-all, be-all, one-all fixer-upper, right? We know
right,
that.
Absolutely.
Sorry?
Absolutely. Go ahead. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And so we know that the vision of a leader is, this is basic. This is the fundamentals. This is the framework of a vision for a leader, is someone who knows where they're going, where he or she is going, right? And I want to point that out, where she or he or she is going, because now you have so many female entrepreneurs, so many female leaders that have stepped out and are spearheading not just the educational system, but the technological platforms, IT, you name it. Even in construction.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to kind of just hone in on that,
Okay.
So
okay.
The vision is where he or she is going, and why a leader can paint these pictures to inspire others to, almost follow them. Well, yeah, just take them with them, almost like tribal. You got the tribal thing. And so what my question to you is, and take your time answering this, my question is, what makes leadership effective?
Okay. Influence. I can narrow that down to one word. That's the short version, but let me try to elaborate on that. Influence. Everything rises and falls on leadership, and leadership is influence, nothing more or nothing less. And you talked about a vision, because people don't buy into a vision until they buy into the leader. When you connect with the leader, and the leader connects with you, and the leader is primarily connecting with the subordinates, and you connect them, and then you got an ear to listen to what people are saying. Because when you have a vision, it might be a vision for you, it might be a vision for your organization, it might be a vision for your family, it might be a vision for your team. But remember, your team has to execute the vision. You can't do anything by yourself. Your family has to execute the vision. Your church has to execute the vision. Your school the members of your school have to execute the vision. That is your team. And so you have a team. Without empowerment, without the relationship, without having that influence, there is a vision, but it won't be executed unless it's executed by that team and have the influence. And the people buy into the person because you have connected with the person. And then most likely they'll buy into the vision because they have bought into you. They have connected with you as their leader, a person that has influence with them. Why? Because you care for them. People don't care what you know until they know that you care. And once you have that caring and you serve them, people will respond. You ever heard this thing about, you've heard this cliche, it's lonely at the top? Well, if it's lonely at the top and you're the leader and if it's lonely at the top, that tells me that you have an empowered team, you have an influenced team, and the team is not with you, yes, it would be lonely. If you're at the top, that means you have not done what you need to do as a leader. And be an effective leader, an influential leader, an empowerment leader. That's why it's lonely at the top. And you really think about it, you're really not at the top, because if you don't have a team, you're really nowhere. If you take a walk through the park and you turn around and see there's no one behind you, it's a lonely walk in the park. Who's following you? Why? Because you're not serving the people. Yeah, it's lonely at the top when you don't serve the people. And you're really not at the top. You're just there, occupying space, because you have no team. And everything has to have a team. It doesn't work without a team. People execute the vision. People carry out the vision. And you have to empower people, and that's by your relationship with folks, your commitment to folks, believing in folks, empowering folks that work with you. And you can't get the mindset of people working for you. As a servant leader, you're working with your team. Folks are working together. They collaborate together. They get buy-in. You ask a lot. There's a book that I have in my portfolio called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions. Your focus is to ask great questions. Not to tell. When people ask you something, it's not to tell and advise them. It's to ask another question and to empower them to solve their situations. Learn to ask questions. By asking questions, what you're saying to the people that work with you, that their opinion matters. They matter. And see, you think about an opinion, but when people give their opinion, they're not just giving their opinion, they're giving of themselves. And so what you're saying to them, if you respect that, you're saying, you matters. You matter to me. And not only what you matter, but what you say matters. And that's why you ask questions. When people give you the answers, by your asking questions, you're saying, I am empowering you to give me the answer. And there could be multiple answers. There could be multiple situations. And you don't see problems as problems. You see situations as opportunities for growth, a sense of enthusiasm, a sense of respect. That's vision. That's working as a visionary. And believe me, you need that person, because without a vision, people will perish. And you have to have a vision, but you got to execute the vision through a team. And without that team, you're just taking a walk through the park, and it's going to be a lonely walk through the park, and it will be lonely at the top, because you never reside at the top without a team. Your responsibility is to develop. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And because we're almost out of time, I'm going to ask you a two-part question. But before I ask you a two-part question, I just want to say this has been amazing. Oh, wow.
Well,
if you're not listening to, absolutely. For the people that's listening in right now, I know, don't say anything. Keep muted there. But when this goes out, this is going to help so many people. Again, we're discussing, and I want to bring you back. I'm gonna tell you that now. I already know. I want to bring you back, sir. And not only do I want to bring you back, I'll probably want to, include some more people on this discussion, of educational leadership, because this is going to help so many people in education and just in leadership and period, and just even parenthood.
Yes.
This is we're going to kind of wrap things up here with this last question, and it's going to be a two-part question, but I want you to, kind of flow with this question, and then we'll wrap things up.
Yes, sir.
Now we're talking about competency, or being competent, and being confident. So confidence and competency. How does all these, or these two words, being competent and confident, how does those two words tie into educational leadership?
Absolutely. And first of all, the first part is competent. You have to believe in yourself. That's it. Educators, leaders are readers, and they become confident by continually testing themselves and stretching themselves. The rubber band has to be stretched to be used. If you don't stretch yourself, if you don't test yourself, if you don't take risk, you're not willing to take risk, to step out of a comfort zone, when you're comfortable, you're not growing. And you learn from risk-taking. A mistake is a mistake when you don't get up. A mistake is not a mistake, it's a lesson learned. Sometimes you win, and sometimes you learn. Stay away from the lose aspect, because opportunities and growth come out of taking risks. Try again, try again, try again, try again. You become confident that I can. As you become confident in your ability, you start seeking a level of competence. And you start growing because you seek more opportunities to grow yourself, get more gifted in your skill and your craft, and the confidence comes with confidence. But the confidence comes with courage, and people recognize courage, even when you don't have the competence. But people want to see confidence, that you are going to step out and you are going to get the confidence because you have a willingness to grow yourself and develop yourself. You have a willingness to take risk. You have a willingness to allow others to take risks, to get more confidence. And as they get more confidence based on taking those necessary risks and those trials and those situations and those opportunities to grow, they develop a level of competence because they get more immersed into their field, into an endeavor, and they become stronger. They become what I call lifelong learners. They are continual growing, and they learn to grow themselves as they grow others. You can't give what you don't have. You have to learn to grow yourself before you can grow others. And so those are the things. Can I share this with you right quick, and then I will let you close it out. But I want to share this with you because I think this goes into what in regards to educational leaderships. And this is one of those components that I believe significantly. And because of my background, educational leaders and educators, because the teachers are educational leaders, they have a title of a teacher, but they're a leader, they're a role model, they are transforming lives in those classrooms. Their impact is not classroom management, it's classroom leadership. And they must believe, as a classroom leader, you must believe that all children can learn at a high level. You have to believe that, and your actions must permeate that. Everything you do has to send a signal to a child or a student that they can learn at a high level. Because if you start tweaking things and lower the standard, you are telling me as a student that you have low expectations of me. Same thing with a parent. You have to use words of high expectations. You can, son. You can, boy. Boy, you're going to do this. Boy, you're going to be this. You're going to be my great star. You are the superstar. And this quote I like to use for parents as well as educators, and then I'll be quiet. And this author of this quote is unknown. I have no idea. I've used this quote quite extensively for quite a few years. But it goes like this. Low expectations from a teacher can cause a child to fail. But low expectations from a parent will crush their soul. Parents, teachers, high expectations. Children will rise to those expectations. Set the bar high. Educational leaders, set the bar high for your educational teachers. They will arise to the expectations. When they get close to the bar, raise the bar even higher, but never lower the bar, because by you lowering the bar, you set low expectations for the people that you're responsible to influence and lead.
Professor Jeff Willie, I've so enjoyed this. Again, will you come back for another time, another session, another discussion?
Yes, sir. The answer is yes, unequivocally yes.
All right. Well, look, I hear horns blowing when you say that. Oh, wow, that's crazy. So anyway, again, we would like to thank each and every one of you for your time and listening to this discussion of educational leadership with Professor Jeff Willie. I'm your host, Isaiah Drown III, and take care.